Between the bird, the crab, and the dragon, we are already starting to see quite a variety of decks pop up inside Lorcana Set Championships for Shimmering Skies all across the world. In this video, we're going to take a look at some ink combinations that I would expect to see if I were going to a Lorcana Set Championship, at kind of the core goal of these decks and kind of what to be on lookout for. It's important to note that the deck lists we are going to look at are just going to be one singular deck list. Do know that players will tech in different cards for different situations and local metas, but the overall goal and objective of the ink combinations will be the same. If you're looking for an overview of how these set championships work and how to get the prizing, click the video in the card in the upper right hand corner, as I published a video not too long ago about that topic. So let's get into our first deck, Emerald Steel. Now this deck is one that recently found success at Disney Lorcana Challenge events, and since then we've started to see a lot of players start to play Emerald Steel again. This is the core overview by Zan, who took the victory at Disney Lorcana Challenge, I believe in Vegas, but it has a pretty good solid discard package, with Ursula Deceiver of All being able to double sing songs like Let the Storm Rage On and Sudden Chill, and We Don't Talk About Bruno to prompt you to discard cards. It's actually quite a solid package. Your card draw packages in this include Diablo and Beast, and with cards like the Muses, anytime you play a song, you are able to bounce characters back to their opponent's hand under a certain number of strength. So it's a pretty good control, but also allows the other opponent to basically slowly discard your hand. So definitely expect to see this one at Disney Lorcana Set Championships. Next up is probably the most powerful deck we've seen so far this set, and it's going to be Ruby Sapphire, some flavor of Sisu on Ice. Now we started to see players start to tech in cards like Scar Vicious Cheater as a rush and kind of multi-challenge type card here, but the core concept of this is basically to ramp up to your very solid removal options, with options like Madame Medusa, Maui, Maleficent, and even Be Prepared. Very strong control comes online after turn 7. Beyond this, you're also looking at cards like Tamatoa and Lucky Dime, and a variety of items like Popsicle and Ice Block to not only reduce the strength of characters to make them in range of, say, Medusa, and also, say, for example, the Sisu Shift to banish characters' strength 2 or less. It also helps out the Tamatoa's quest for more, while also finishing very strong with the Lucky Dime here. So very, very, very powerful deck, probably the most powerful deck we have seen the entire set. So also fully expecting to see quite a bit of Ruby Sapphire inside the championships. Next up is going to be a personal favorite of mine, Steel Song. I wish I played this more often. So the overall core concept around Steel Song hasn't really changed a whole lot, but we now got the addition of Prince Naveen, which upon entry can play a song cost 5 or less for free. And inside this deck list, that's pretty much every song. And then along came Zeus, Let the Storm Rage On, Bare Necessities, Grab Your Swords, and ideally A Whole New World. That's where I'm starting to see a lot of players play A Whole New World, is with Prince Naveen upon entry. Some pretty solid card draw options with the Rapunzel Healing Damage, and very aggressive low-cost singers like the one-drop Cinderella. We also have started to see decks run the Daisy Duck as well, because it's a 1-drop, it has 4 willpower, and it quests for 2. So with cards like the Bare Necessities, you also get a little bit of intel into your opponent's hand as well. So all in all, starting to see a lot of Steel Song. I'd say the popularity has probably remained consistent with Steel Song, but a very good contender against things like Hyper Aggro, for example, strictly with the strong removal like Grab Your Swords, and also some pretty aggressive questers in the beginning like Mr. Smee, and also the Robin Hood Shift, which can give you card draw upon being banished, and also lore gain if you banish other characters. So solid choice, expecting to see quite a lot of this as we go into the remaining 3 weekends. Next up is going to be Ruby Amethyst. Now, Ruby Amethyst, just like Steel Song, really didn't see a ton of change. However, this deck recently saw some success at Disney Lorcana Challenge events, and the core concept around this is still the same. Very consistent card draw, very powerful removal after 6 ink, also just being able to bounce cards back to gain you either lore or cards with Merlin, Goat, and the Rabbit as well. Some players are starting to tech in cards like Sisu for the Sisu Shift, and the library is probably the strongest, newest location we got for this deck. Basically, if a character is banished at that location, you will be able to draw an additional card. So that, with a very early deck thinning options like Chernobog's, Magic Broom, and even the library, it's just a very consistent deck. I would expect players to go back to what's comfortable and what's consistent. And really, going into set championships, consistency is what you need, and players turn towards Ruby Amethyst for consistency. So expect to see a little bit of Ruby Amethyst. It has fallen off a little bit in popularity, but still a very strong and consistent deck. One of our final decks we're going to be looking at is Hyper Aggro. Hyper Aggro is to be respected, folks. It is extremely, extremely fast. Hyper Aggro, its only objective is to gain as much lore as possible early on and beat you to 20 lore. That is the objective. So this deck list is one of the many flavors, just like any of the other deck lists we've seen inside this video, but we're starting to see a lot of Amber, Amethyst, Hyper Aggro. Decks like this focus on gaining lore extremely early with 1-drop cards like Maleficent and Lilo and Daisy Duck questing for 2, protecting them with bodyguards like Simba, Baloo, and Donald Duck, being able to do a little bit of combativeness with cards like Merlin Crab and Madam Mim Fox to rush characters, while giving you instant lore gaining cards like Gaining Knowledge and Wisdom and Merlin Goat and the bosses on a roll. So basically, it is just pedal to the metal, go fast. If you've played against Hyper Aggro, you know that these games are extremely quick. It is a deck to be respective. However, it is a very viable deck for set championships. We've seen really great variety so far in the one weekend that we've had set championships. Hyper Aggro did get a little bit of attention at DLC challenges, but generally, Hyper Aggro, you are going to have Amber and either Amethyst for the immediate lore gain, or you'll also have Emerald as the second color for things like Curse Merfolk and maybe just a little bit of removal and discard with Ursula Deceiver. It is to be respected. I do expect to see some Hyper Aggro inside set championships. Now, this is the part of the video where I could just list off all the different decks that have been successful at making Top Cut, securing that promo card. However, it's important to keep in mind that we are seeing a good, diverse amount of decks make Top Cut and even take first place. For example, my first set championship that I attended at my home store, Ruby Steel took first place. It blew everyone's mind. It was such a fantastic performance. No one really saw it coming. So just keep in mind that there are going to be rogue decks out there that you may not expect to see. Like, for example, Sapphire Steel made an appearance. It dropped off quite a bit, but still a viable deck. Ruby Steel, we saw some performance at DLC. I expect to see a little bit of that. People are creating these decks, and what's working for them, they're bringing to the set championships, and that is good. I am so happy to see that we have a diverse amount of decks making Top Cut, people playing what they've created out of their own minds and just running it and seeing success with it. That is why I play this game. I love just the sheer fact that we have so much volatility inside what could win. So it's really refreshing. I'm very happy to see people having success on their own terms, whether you are running one of the decks I mentioned inside this video, or you're running something that you've created on your own. I wish you good luck at your own set championships. Be sure to subscribe for more lorcana content coming soon, and I'll see you all inside the next video.